Welcome back to At Home with Roby. I'm Patrick McIsaac from Roby Electric, along with Trent Haston from the Roby family of companies. We are your hosts. Be sure to connect with us on Facebook at Andrew Roby, Roby Electric, Roby Realty, and Pitchin' for Wishes. Also, check out our podcast at WPT.com, the WPT app, and the iTunes Store. We are now joined by Ben and Trish Cannon of Pinnacle Roofing and Exteriors. Did I get that right?
You did.
That is right.
I did. Well, guys, welcome. We obviously teed up some of the stuff we were going to talk about in the last segment. Appreciate all that you do for Make-A-Wish and, of course, all you do for the industry. As Trent mentioned 2 shows ago, and I reiterated last segment, roofing and crawl spaces are on Trent's top 2 items for your home. So how did you all get started in roofing?
Well, look, first off, it's all about the flashing, right?
It is all about the flashing.
Keep the daggone water out.
It keeps the water out. Anybody can learn how to put shingles on. But what I think we pride ourselves in is the details. And it's the little detail that finishes that product.
Well, give us your story, because I love – I was telling you guys that y'all were talking about Patrick and I were too serious. We're going to try to be a little more funny the rest of the show, but I love I think we got a good connection. I love when people listen to the show and they say they laughed a little bit, they felt good about what they heard a little history of Charlotte and some cool stories, and then they also learned something that they didn't know. And I think it's one of my obligations to the city of Charlotte, because I love entrepreneurship and businesses and trying and taking chances. I love when I have fellow entrepreneurs and hustlers. That's one of my favorite terms. What's your story?
I grew up in Charlotte and working in the roofing industry, residential roofing industry in particular, was kind of an opportunity that I was given. I took that on because I had always had a love for construction, and it was a way that I could be in the construction field all the time. The guy that I worked for had a very open mind as far as what time that I had to devote to work and what time I had to devote to school. He always said, "I'll teach you the value of an education." Well, here I am still doing the same thing, roofing. However, I'm not the guy up on the roof in 100-degree weather every day anymore, all day, every day. I do still feel that that is an important aspect of my life as the guy that's running the company, and putting my stamp of approval on everything is to get up on the roof. You know, I can do a drive-by. But throughout the course of the project, I do still feel that that is a very, very important piece to that puzzle.
I mean, I run a construction company. You know, we're in the services business. Roofers can be gnarly, right?
They can be very gnarly.
All the cool roofer stories we tell kind of align with our tree man stories. I mean, Joe could do trees, always done our tree work. And I don't even think he's ever punched anybody, but the stories are he'll drop down and throw dukes with his guys, and then they'll be buying them lunch 20 minutes later.
Well, we've had a couple of blowouts. I would say that I was shaken one or two times because some of the guys that work for me are bigger than me, a lot stronger than me. But I think it's those times that really help you build a good team. And those are the same guys that are here working for me today that were here working for me when I started.
It's unconditional love, right? I mean,
it's like brotherly love.
Well, we got to be able to be honest with each other.
Me
right?
and my brother
Happens.
have thrown a couple punches around our office
You
property.
don't say.
I will say, though, we haven't in a very many years. We both matured, and we always wanted to get along, but, you know, sometimes we didn't agree, and we'd run in the backyard and make a fool out of ourselves. That's not the way you do your business, but sometimes it's part of growth, and it's just the intrinsic unconditional love that both me and my brother have equally for the passion of the business.
Well, I think that's what takes us and separates us differently from a lot of other residential companies in town as far as roofing goes, is because of our passion. And the guys that work for me, I've got guys that are specific to sheet metal and guys that are specific to different aspects of roofing and guys that are strictly for gutters. And it's their passion and drive for that one piece to the puzzle that makes our whole piece of the construction pie go better, or our finished product is better than everybody else that we can put out.
So if I got in a fight in your yard, I'd probably pick up slate and throw it at somebody versus
Feisty today.
Oh, I've had
asphalt
guys
shingles.
come up. I've had guys come up front and say that they were going home because they got in an argument, and then the next guy came in and he had blood running down his face, and they scrubbed each other's face in the gravel. But 2 days later, they were like brothers.
Accidentally.
He said he got in an
Yeah.
argument.
Yeah.
Your voice cut his face.
Accidentally.
Leroy,
Accidentally.
come on, man.
But
She's spitting.
just like you explained with your brother, that's the kind of camaraderie that we have around our place.
And with time comes maturity, and they've
Yep.
definitely matured. I fortunately have witnessed much of this over the last how many years?
So we have a rule as our business has grown. I inherited this rule that the spouse cannot work in the business.
Correct. And you have to realize that I own 50% of this company.
so
and
bang, bang.
I'm gonna take 100% of the credit for kicking my foot in his rear end, which is the reason that we have this business.
So when does he stop working? That's the spouse can't work in the. I didn't say it. The woman couldn't work in the. I said the spouse.
We enjoy working
We know who the
together.
boss lady is. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
no. He's definitely the boss at the office. And then there's home.
So how long have y'all been in business?
We have been in business for 16 years, incorporated for 14 years.
Together the whole time?
Yes, we've
Wow.
been married 16 years on
And I think
Friday.
most of those years you worked with Roby, right?
I've worked with Roby, and it started out with old Papa Ron tested me out on a couple little small rental houses that he had. And I think after the third one, he looked at me and he kind of gave me a thumbs up. And he goes, there are going to be some guys that call you. I want you to answer them, and I want you to respond quickly. And from there, it built.
I'm meeting a mason in 30 minutes that I met at Home Depot Friday, and I told him the same thing. I said, I got a little project I want you to look at, but then after that, I don't do this. I'm going to pass you on to the guys if you pass the sniff test.
Well, and that was what Ron did with me. And there were a lot of times, even after that even though I passed his test, per se, that, he was always there checking behind us and making sure that what he was telling his guys was true, that these guys are good. He was still making sure that we were keeping up to our end of the bargain.
And I think one of the things, too, that Ron saw in Ben is that Ben's been doing this since he was 15 years old.
Yeah.
And he's done the commercial side of it. He's done the residential side of it. He's done the retail side of it. So he's had his hand in every single pot. But the biggest hiccup, I think, that he ever, or roadblock that he ran into was ageism. He was this young kid showing up on people's doorsteps, and they're like, what are you doing? And Ron really looked at him like, hey, you're like my son.
He had me on the other side of the coin in
Exactly.
1999. I was 20 years old and weighed 125 pounds trying to sell, humongous projects
Yes.
to very
What do
wealthy
you know
people.
about it?
And
Exactly.
I think I kind of set the state, Ben. I think you owe me the whole
Huge.
Roby relationship.
Huge, right, exactly.
But if you think about that, what you opened up with is that you still touch all the jobs. You might not necessarily be on the roof all the time, but you're definitely willing to go up there and take a look. And that's exactly what Papa Ron would do. He did the same thing to you. And obviously, we both strive ourselves in quality, right? You said details and quality.
Well, details and quality are what set us apart. Not right when the job's finished. It's 5 years down the road when the job has had a chance to settle in, and expansion and contraction between different metals and different components of the roof system have happened. Did we put it together to last the test of time?
Which is why we warrant it as long as we do as well, and how we stand behind the quality of work.
How long is the warranty?
It depends on what we're doing.
The product has to do with
Absolutely.
it.
And
Okay,
asphalt shingles were falling in there with most every roofing contractor is going to give you anywhere from a year to 2 years.
Okay.
If we deal with something like slate and tile or cedar shakes, metalwork, all of that stuff is done, and it's supposed to last longer. So I say let's give it a 5-year workmanship warranty on it.
Wow.
Cool.
And the other thing, too, I think, is that at the end of the day, if everybody decided they didn't want to come to work, he could physically do every aspect of this job, which is why he's such a good teacher, is that he makes sure that it is done up to his standards. He can bend the metal. He can fabricate. He can look at something, put the idea in his head, draw it down on a piece of paper, give it to somebody to make, or he could make it himself. I mean,
I've honestly, Trish, never heard you. I've heard you speak a lot about Ben, to Ben. We're in a business class together, which is, we'll talk about that in a second, how y'all try to work on the business in conjunction with charity. But Ben, man, she's bragging on
Yeah.
you, bro.
I'm telling you.
I'm quite impressed. Although he really doesn't have an eye for anything being level, that's where I come in.
Well, and I will
Hanging
say,
a picture, that's my forte.
he can do all this stuff, and Trent was calling roofers gnarly. These are not gnarly looking people. I mean, he's
thanks,
well dressed.
Patrick.
He looks great. So,
Will you stay with us next segment?
please.
Talk a little bit about Make-A-Wish.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Folks, you're listening to At Home with Roby. When we get back, we'll be with Ben and Trish Cannon